Welcome and good afternoon. This is Kamish Orr, and today we're doing a little recap of today's games from Baseball Maelstrom, something I like to call stories from the Maelstrom. We turn first to this first game, New York at Detroit. And we see that from the story here that Ty Cobb came in clutch. He was 3 for 5 and helped New York top Detroit 4-1. Hal Newhouser beat out Dave Stieb. There's a 1-1 pitchers duel into the seventh. And if we take a look at the box score, we'll see a little bit more from this game. As we see a 1-1 tie heading into the seventh, Dave Stieb still on the mound for Detroit. And Roberto Alomar led off with a double. Heilman dribbled one to first base. And Ivan Rodriguez followed with a fly out to left field. It looks like he was going to get out of the inning. But then he walked Wade Boggs, and Ty Cobb followed that with a double, scoring 2 runs to put New York up 3-1 at that point. They'd add another insurance run in the ninth. Meanwhile, Hal Newhouser went 8 innings, only allowed 1 earned run here in the fourth. Bobby Gritch's RBI single, scoring Manny Ramirez. So Ty Cobb, he went 3 for 5 with 2 RBI there. And that still only took his average to 208. Ty Cobb has been struggling this year in terms of hitting and way under expectations. So kind of interesting, especially in the American League where offense has been a little bit higher than in the National League. There are a few players who are performing well under what we'd expect, and Ty Cobb is definitely one of those. So the win takes New York to 9-10 and drops Detroit to 10-9. And we'll see here in a minute how close the American League is. So that's the first game. Heading to the second game, we have St. Louis in Chicago. St. Louis Wizards facing the Chicago Docks. And Carl Hubble is the man of the hour for that one. Heading here to the box score, we can see that Hubble went 8 innings, allowing just 1 earned run and only 5 hits, struck out 10. He is the first pitcher in the league to go to get his 4th win. So he's 4-0 now for the St. Louis Wizards. Meanwhile, Oral Hershiser, starting for the Chicago Docks, actually pitched a pretty good game, allowing just 2 earned runs in 8 innings, but did allow 10 hits. The game kind of got out of hand in the ninth when Kent Tekulve came in and walked Oscar Charleston. But more importantly, Jimmy Rollins committed his first error of the season on an easy ground ball from Ted Simmons. Would have been a double play, most likely. And Tony Gwynn made them pay with an RBI single to follow that. Looked like that was the most damage that was going to happen that inning, but after getting Stan Musial and Larry Walker out, Tekulve allowed a single to Ron Santo and then a bases clearing double to Rogers Hornsby. Hornsby's another one who is performing well under expectations. He went 3 for 5 this game with 3 doubles, and that just brought him up to 200. So again, he's one of those who's not hitting as well as we would expect. But he did come through in this game to add some insurance runs for St. Louis. Chicago would get 1 back in the bottom of the ninth off of Jesse Haynes on an RBI double from Jeff Kent. But St. Louis would take this one 6-2. St. Louis has a league best record of 16-3. Even though they lost yesterday's game to Chicago for their 3rd loss, they get right back on the winning track in this one. Chicago falls to 7-12. We head over to the third game of the day, Boston at Oakland. Remember that yesterday's game was rained out which gave Boston an extra day of rest. However, Ted Williams wasn't quite able to come back to play in this one, battling an injury. He should be ready for tomorrow's game. This one had some late inning drama. Boston was the first on the board in the fourth, thanks to an error by Rod Carew that put Frank Thomas in scoring position. And Carl Yastrzemski, who was in the game in replace of Ted Williams, actually did very well. He went 3 for 5 in this one. Or 3 for 4. He had an RBI there in the fourth, which, as I said, was the first run on the board for Boston. Oakland followed, though, with a run in each of the next 3 innings against Gaylord Perry, who is one of the better pitchers in the league. Perry allowed a home run to Mickey Cochran in the fifth, and Reggie Jackson had an RBI triple in the sixth. And then in the seventh, Perry walked the bases loaded after getting Nellie Fox to fly out, and Rod Carew grounded one to short. Looked like it might be a double play ball to get out of the inning, but he was able to leg it out and beat out the throw to first, scoring a run there in the seventh to put Oakland up 3-1 at that point. Whitey Ford he went 8 innings, allowing just 1 run, an unearned run, and allowing 8 hits. Mariano Rivera came in the ninth, and he had a shaky ninth inning. Yastrzemski, as I said, was 3 for 4. He hit a leadoff double in the ninth inning. Then Mariano Rivera allowed the next 2 hitters to reach base to load the bases. Bobby Doerr walked, and Biz Mackey hit a single. Yastrzemski didn't want to risk it since they were still down by 2 anyway, so he stayed at third. Brooks Robinson then hit a shallow fly ball to center. And again, Yastrzemski did not want to challenge Joe DiMaggio's arm. And so he stayed at third. So with the bases loaded, with 1 out, Ricky Henderson hit a single, scoring Yastrzemski. But it was well fielded, and so again, that was the only run they could muster there. So the score 3-2 with 1 out and bases loaded brought up Cal Ripken Jr. And Ripken lined one down the first base line, but Rod Carew reached out and snagged it, and Ricky was a little bit too far off of first base and got doubled up on the play to end the game. So Rod Carew had that key error in the fourth that allowed the unearned run, but he made up for it later in the game with his RBI in the seventh and his glove work in the ninth. Looked for sure like Boston was going to score a couple more runs there, and Rivera would have blown his first save of the season. Instead, he escapes just narrowly, despite allowing 3 hits and a walk in 1 inning of work to pick up his 3rd save. Boston has now lost, I believe, 5 straight. They're 10-8, and Oakland is 8-10. We'll take a look here at the standings here in just a minute. Let's first turn to the last game of the day. And that would be the game with the Los Angeles Dynamos coming to the Astrodome to face the Houston Hoots. And if we pull up this game, we can see that Houston had a huge 5th inning. Bringing up the score sheet here. In fact, Bob Gibson was taking the mound for the Hoots. He's had a kind of a rough season, despite being their team captain and ace pitcher. Still having a rough season. LA was able to put the first run on the board with an RBI single from Cristobal Torriente, which scored Dave Bancroft, who had doubled and stole third to lead off the third inning. Don Sutton took a no-hitter actually into the fifth. He didn't allow a hit in the first 4 innings, and then the wheels fell off. As we can see, Sutton allowed all 9 Houston hitters to reach base before recording his first out of the inning. Ryne Sandberg singled, Duke Snider walked, Hammer and Hank hit a 3-run homer to get Houston on the board. Mel Ott followed with a double, and Gary Carter followed with another double. And Willie Stargell walked, and then Pop Lloyd had a bases-clearing triple. Jeff Bagwell followed with an RBI single of his own, and Billy Williams followed with another single before Ryne Sandberg finally flew out for the first out of the inning. Sutton, a little questionable, but Sutton was left out there and was able to battle through the rest of the inning and get out of the fifth, but not before Houston would score 9 runs, 8 of those earned. There was an error later. Yeah, Dave Bancroft bobbled the ball there in that big 5th inning to extend it a little bit more, allowed the Hoots to score another run. Interestingly enough, Pete Alexander came in for the final 3 innings and allowed just 3 hits. So other than that one big inning, Houston only had 3 hits the other 7 innings. Meanwhile, Bob Gibson went the distance in this one, allowing just 2 earned runs on 8 hits. He only struck out 2, but it was good enough to improve his record to 2-3. Los Angeles has now fallen to 8-11, and Houston improved to 7-12. So that wraps up the day's games. As we take a look at the standings, we can see, as I mentioned before, Boston has now lost 5 straight. The American League is a very tight, with just 2 games separating first and last place here. Meanwhile, in the National League, St. Louis is running away with it so far. They are 16-3, and the other 3 teams in the NL all have losing records: 8-11, 7-12, and 7-12. So they'll try to turn that around, but it's anybody's guess who can beat who can beat St. Louis so far. If we come out here to the stats, we can see just a quick update. Looking at the leaders, looking at the overall batting leaders, we can see Ted Williams, who was rested today, so he's still at 403. He's still, actually, Robin Yount had surpassed him, but Yount's average dropped to 392, but still very, very, very good. And Williams still leading in most offensive categories, so that's very interesting. And if we come to the pitching leaders, we can see St. Louis is still dominating the pitching leaderboard. Carl Hubbell's ERA has dropped now to 1.71. Robin Roberts didn't pitch, but his is 2.03. Bert Blyleven has the best ERA in the American League at 2.03. And then just a little further down are 2 more of the St. Louis Wizards starters. So very interesting to see that. In the saves, again, Bruce Sutter, Billy Wagner leading with 6 saves apiece, both in the National League. But Steve Carlton, despite despite his rough start yesterday in the league, still leading quite a few of the quite a few of the pitching categories. So interesting stuff. We look at team ERAs and team batting averages. We can see that actually the best average in the American League is Detroit, batting .327 at this point. Most of the batting averages are hovering around 300. So the American League batting averages are .296, and the American League ERA is .570. Meanwhile, in the National League, team batting averages are just over .250, and team ERAs are below 4, .395. So definitely less offense in the National League, more offense in the American League. Still curious to see if that's due to hitting or better pitching. In any event, that's a quick update on that for those who are curious. We are a couple more, maybe another 8 weeks, I think, until the All-Star break or thereabouts. I will hear probably in February, real life February, I will release the All-Star ballots, and I hope that you'll take a look at those and vote on who the All-Star should be. I do plan on doing a little home run derby and an All-Star game in the middle of the season, so be watching for that. As always, head over to baseballmaelstrom.com if you want to check out the full stats, check out the teams, see how they're doing. I do post a story every time I play a game, a paragraph synopsis of each game that you can find here. And then, as always, you can see the scores from the past 8 games or so, the past couple of days here, the upcoming days games down here. You can get to the league trailer here, and then there's actually a video of each team's roster. So if you're curious to see which players are on which teams, go check that out. If you have any questions about the league, feel free to drop those in the comments. If you like this content, or you're just come by and you enjoy watching this stuff, I encourage you to hit the like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and you'll get more of this content. I do have some other league ideas. This one's going to take a while to finish, though, so it'd probably be a while before I get to the other league ideas with other tabletop games. But I am the next video you'll see from me would be a breakdown of ground ball outs in the Major League Baseball this past year. I'm going to be doing a series of videos on that, so if you're curious about that, keep watching for that as well. In any event, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the support and comments that I hear. And until next time, have a great evening.